I hope you've brought your glasses because it's time to read my body language. Well, hello, fellow humans. You're watching another episode of Kylie Retrospectives, a series in which we delve into the discography of the wonderful Miss Kylie Minogue in the lead up to her album Disco, which is coming out on the 6th of November 2020 at the time of recording. And speaking of, her new single Magic is available on all good digital platforms now, so stream it, bitch. I am your hostess with the mostess, ElliXia Valentine, Malvin's answer to Kelly Lorena. This week we're taking it back in time to 2003 to discuss Kylie's 9th studio album, Body Language. Body Language was released on the 17th of November 2003 and it reached number 6 on the UK albums chart. It featured the singles Slow, Red-Blooded Woman and Chocolate, as well as Taiwanese exclusive single Secret in brackets Take You Home. Today's look is inspired by the album's artwork. The general vibe of the album is very sexy, very smooth, and this is my interpretation. I was trying to go for like the body language fringe as well. The album's overall visuals were inspired by Paris, so I'm going for like Parisian ElliXia right now. I can't speak French, so I'll just let the funky music do the talking instead. Je suis ElliXia. Oh god. Normally I could remember my high school French quite well, but that C I got at GCSE has just gone straight down the drain, hasn't it? Kylie was inspired by Brigitte Bardot for a lot of the visuals on this album, and I recently watched behind the scenes of the photo shoot. She just looks so effortlessly hot, so sexy, so classy. The way she's just like posing like that, and I'm just like, how does she do it? She makes it look like it's just nothing. Of course, she doesn't pull it off quite as well as I do. I'm just kidding, of course. Anyway, let's get on with the actual album, shall we? The overall sound of Body Language is a little bit of a departure from what we had on Light Years and Fever. It's a little bit less dancey and a little bit more mid-tempo in certain parts. There's quite an 80s influence, but there's also sort of quite an R&B influence as well. That's not to say that the album doesn't sound like classic Kylie though, because it definitely does. I hear some people say Body Language is quite a divisive album amongst the fan base. Some people love it and some people hate it. I am on the side that absolutely loves it. Body Language is actually one of my favourite albums of hers. I think it's very, very, very underrated. Kicking off Body Language in a flawless style is lead single Slow. Slow was released in November of 2003 and it reached number 1 on the UK singles chart. And it's actually, to date, her most recent number 1 single as well. I mean, it'd be great if Magic could do that on Friday after this video airs, but I'm not very hopeful. But stream Magic just in case. Anyway, Slow is just a flawless song. It's deliciously minimal, yet it leaves you fully satisfied. It's electronic, it's seductive, it's sexy. I think Slow is actually very timeless. In a similar fashion to Confide in Me, I feel like Slow is one of those Kylie songs that is just objectively brilliant. Even if you don't like Kylie, even if you don't really like pop music, you can still listen to a song like Slow and be like, yeah, that's really good. I actually think Kylie is often at her best when she's minimal. In preparation for this video, I watched Body Language live as well. The one-off show that she did at what is now the Hammersmith Apollo in London. And it was done the weekend before Body Language was released, and Slow was currently still at number 1 on the UK singles chart. And I love that she was introduced it like, I'm gonna sing the number 1 song in the country, like with a little bit of a smugness, but it's like, yeah, but you've earned that smugness, so it's fine. The video for Slow as well is just so good. It's Kylie by a swimming pool, surrounded by loads of other people on like these colourful beach towels. She's writhing around, doing a thing, being all very sexy. Honestly, right, watching that video and actually watching the Body Language concert that she did as well, she looks basically the same now. This was 2003, so a whole 17 years ago, and she basically looks the same. I mean, I'm sure that the money probably helps, but Slow is just such an immaculate song. Like, I listen to it and I'm just like in awe of how good it is. I like bask in how good it is. And of course it has the iconic line, read my body language. Single number 2 was Red-Blooded Woman. Released in March of 2004, it reached number 5 on the UK singles chart. A little side note to that is there's a very funny interview with Kylie, with a local radio presenter in the week of that song's release. And he's like, oh, you're not #1 in the midweek chart. That's a bit disappointing, isn't it? And her management are like, no, we're not having this interview. It's very awkward. Yeah, Red Blooded Woman is more on the R&B side of things. It's much more mid-tempo. Another Kylie song that has a spinning around reference as well. It's all from the perspective of a woman who has found this new guy and she's, you know, fallen a little bit head over heels for him. And her conscience is very much saying, please, we've been here so many times before. Don't you dare go for that man because he's only going to mess you up. And Kylie's like, do I look like I give a shit? Those aren't the actual lyrics. I'm just paraphrasing. Yeah, Red Blooded Woman is a good one. When she did it on the Showgirl tour, and she, for Middle 8, included a bit of Where the Wild Roses Grow, her collaboration with Nick Cave, which is about her character being murdered, it sort of puts Red Blooded Woman in a new dark light. I sometimes wonder, is Red Blooded Woman like a prequel to Where the Wild Roses Grow? Is Red Blooded Woman Eliza Day? Conspiracy. And then we have the album's third single, which is the often overlooked Chocolate. Chocolate reached #6 in the UK singles chart, and it wasn't a massive hit. It was kind of just like a sort of respectable success. I say it's often overlooked because it's never done on tour. It was done on the Showgirl tour, and then that's it. Never been done since. I absolutely love Chocolate. I'm just gonna come straight out and say it, actually, that Chocolate is one of my favourite Kylie songs of all time. I feel like I'm probably alone in that because I find that Chocolate is probably one of the more divisive songs, or the songs I sort of see less love for, but I really love it. I think it's so luscious, it's so smooth. The video is really good as well with that choreography, and it's inspired by musicals of the 40s. It's very well done. Kylie looks gorgeous in it, as always, of course. That goes without saying, really. I just think Chocolate is so... it really hits the spot. It's almost as good as real chocolate. Almost. There's also a version as well with Ludacris, which was meant to be the original version, but for whatever reason he was left off it, but that version has since leaked. And I have to say, Kylie and Ludacris is not a collaboration I'd ever think of, but it's a really good remix, because rap replaces the Middle 8, and it flows really, really well. Then I guess the record label had other ideas. Then with that, we move on to the album track. Track 2, we have Still Standing, which was also the opener to the Body Language concert. Still Standing is a brilliant song. It's got some wonderful uses of synth and electronica. There's an 80s flair to it as well. It's a nice nod really to how long she's lasted in the industry, because at this point she was 9 albums in, which is impressive given how fickle the pop music industry can be. Especially in a music industry where once female singers reach a certain age, they're seen as being past a sell-by date, and they just get sort of shunted to the side, and Radio 1 have no interest in them anymore. Yeah, because for this album, Kylie was 35, and in the eyes of some people in the music industry, that's too old. Not in these eyes, might I add. We have no ageism on this channel, thank you very much. But I digress. But yeah, Still Standing is a nice little nod to that, because, you know, the chorus is, I'm still standing, keeping you dancing, and she's singing to a man who she's gonna probably do stuff with. But it's like a double meaning for the industry as well, and for the fans, you know. After all these years, she's still bringing us the bops. It also worked as a really good opener for the Body Language concert. She was on this like suspended bar at the top of the stage, and it's lowering down as the song progresses. And every time I watch something like that, I'm always thinking, oh, I couldn't do that. I'm a performer, but if I was ever lucky enough to have like arena shows, I'm staying on the ground. Thank you very much. Up next we have Secret, in brackets, Take You Home. Now Secret, Take You Home had a limited release in Taiwan, I believe, as a single, but I don't really know how it did, so sorry. Secret, Take You Home sort of has a little bit more of a R&B flavour to it. It almost reminds me a little bit actually of a Britney song from that era, like, you know, from the Britney album / In the Zone. There's even a little bit of rapping in it as well, which I have to say is better than what One Boy Girl had to offer all those years back in 1990. Secret, Take You Home is a little bit of a slut bop really, and I always appreciate one of those. It actually sounds like it would work quite well with a Missy Elliott feature or somebody like that on it. It even contains a Janet Jackson reference as well, to her song, The Pleasure Principle. And like I said before, Kylie is a known Janet Jackson fan, so I like that. The woman has taste. Then we have track 4, which is Promises, which is another R&B inspired song. Quite sassy as well. She's singing about a guy who promised her the world and didn't deliver, basically. And you know me, I love a good sassy put down, get out of my face kind of song. Like, the sound of the song is quite sassy, but Kylie herself actually does sound quite calm and reserved. So she might be telling him to get out, but she's doing so with class. Then up next we have track 5, which is Sweet Music, which is true to its title. Sweet Music is quite funky, it's a little bit 80s again as well. Definitely would have made a good single, I think, had there been a 4th single from this album. And Sweet Music talks about making a connection with somebody through making music. Your taste, it mirrors mine. Now, I say it's about making music with somebody. It could well be a metaphor for naughty things, but I'm keeping it PG. Next we have Obsession, which is an R&B track with some really good lyrics about a man who is more concerned with how he looks and what his reputation is than actually dating Kylie. He only wants to go out with Kylie to make himself look good, and if ever she's in danger, he can rescue her, and then he's the hero. It's a little bit cutting, but it's also a little bit vulnerable as well. She talks about the impact that this man's behaviour has had on her. But it also makes a good point about a man who is only dating her to boost his ego. And I can imagine, as a famous person, especially someone like Kylie, who is known for not having the smoothest of love lives, I imagine she's come across her fair share of men who only want to be with her because she's Kylie Minogue, which is very mean. Don't do that. Looking at you, Joshua Sasse, or whatever your name is. Yeah, we know what you did. We know. Up next we have I Feel For You, which is probably the album's most experimental track. It begins with sounds of a thunderstorm. There's a little bit of an element of funk-ish. I don't really know how to describe it. It's up-tempo, and it's quite a simple song about how much she feels for a person. But there's some sort of bizarre sound effects and bizarre vocal samples that are used quite a lot in the song. I guess it's something of an acquired taste. I personally enjoy it, but I can see why some people might listen to it and be like, what's this? Then we have Someday, which is another breakup song. Lyrics are very, very simple, but effective. Precious stone, life goes on. You have abused and used me, now you're all alone. I want my records back to get my hearts on track. You think I can't be alone while this woman's here to show you. It's definitely a good song to listen to when you're moving on from somebody and you've reached a calm level of closure where you're more or less over the worst of it and you're sort of now in that situation where you're like, right, I'm ready to move on. Now I'm going to do it. It somehow manages to be sort of both understated and kind of over the top with all the sort of sound effects and synths that are present throughout the song, but it works. Then we have the penultimate track, Loving Days, which is a lovely ballad. Got some lovely lyrics about how in love she is with this guy and how much she just loves spending time with him and how great it all is. A lot of lyrics about wanting to dive in and, you know, really experience being with somebody. It's very intimate. And then we have the album's closer, After Dark, which is a little bit of a mid-tempo sort of funk, chilled out kind of number. It's not a huge climax to the album, more so a song, I think, that plays as the credits roll up. It's a nice track for sure. It isn't my favourite, but it does its job well. Kind of like if Body Language is a show, that's the song that's playing as you leave. But not in a bad way. That sounds like I don't mean it to be good, but I do. Outside the main body of the album, we have some bonus tracks and B-sides as well. There's Slow Motion and You Make Me Feel, which I have to confess I haven't really listened to that many times. Slow Motion's a really nice ballad as well. And You Make Me Feel is sort of a mid-tempo R&B kind of number again as well. There's quite a lot of those. I've said that quite a few times, haven't I? Because they're not available in the UK, I've sort of never really seeked them out much to listen to, so that's why I'm not really that familiar with them. Then we have the B-side to Slow, which is a song called Soul on Fire. Now, I love the title Soul on Fire. Unfortunately, the song doesn't quite live up to that. It's a very chilled out song. It's got that like acoustic sort of flamenco guitar chilled out vibe. Very similar to some of the B-sides from Light Years. And Kylie sings about a boy that she broke up with that she is now regretting doing so. She's basically trying to guilt trip him into coming back to her. It's a nice enough song, you know, if I owned a cafe it would probably be on the playlist, but I don't think the album's worse off for not having it. Red-Blooded Woman had 2 B-sides, Cruise Control and Almost a Lover. Almost a Lover is a lovely electronic sort of slinky mid-tempo song. I really, really, really like Almost a Lover. I think it definitely should have been on the album, probably in place of something else, I don't know. And then we have Cruise Control, which is, you guessed it, another mid-tempo R&B song. Cruise Control is a little bit quirkier, I would say. And there's an uncredited rap from Sean Paul as well. And I read this on a forum, so I don't know how true it is, but apparently somebody at the record label was just messing about with a Sean Paul verse that they had that was unreleased and put it onto the beat of Cruise Control. And then Cruise Control got added to the Red-Blooded Woman release, but the wrong version got added on, and it was the Sean Paul version that was an unofficial remix. Ended up getting officially released because somebody experimented with it, which is why he's not listed as a feature. And apparently the record label were not impressed by that blunder. But I think that's really funny if it's true, so long as nobody got fired. And then the last B-side we have is a song called City Games, which is, say it with me, mid-tempo R&B. It's kind of like a little bit funky. I really like City Games. It's a good song to sort of strut along to, you know, when you're sort of feeling your oats a little bit. Now, I do actually have a bone to pick with Kylie's label. If you're watching this, A, please don't copyright strike this, but also, there's a single on Spotify called City Games, and it also appears as a B-side to Chocolate. However, the file that is on Spotify is not City Games, it's actually another remix of Chocolate. And I would really like to have City Games on Spotify. So, Kylie's people, if you're watching this by any means, please sort that out. Thank you. And also, Kylie, if you're watching this, hi, I'm a big fan, I love you. Overall, I would say Body Language is a really smooth album. I remember in 2010, Kylie said in an interview that she wished it had been more cohesive. And I don't really get that, because I think it is very cohesive. There's variety and there's experimentation, but as I've said about 50 times in this video, a lot of the tracks are mid-tempo R&B styled numbers, and I think it's very cohesive. I also think as well, the album's aged really well. I remember listening to it in 2013 for its 10th anniversary and thinking this, and then again, listening to it recently as well, I also agree with my past self. The album has aged really well. Granted, a few moments are a little bit dated sounding, like I feel like Obsession sounds very much of its time, as does Secret and Promises. But I feel like the majority of the album still sounds really fresh, and the songs that do sound a little bit dated now would probably sound like a throwback instead if they were new. Because we're now at that point in time where a song that sounds like it's from the 2000s is now a cool throwback rather than dated. It's funny how things work like that, isn't it? Yeah, overall, Body Language is one of my favourite Kylie albums. Body Language is consistently in the top for me. Controversially as that might be, because I know some fans don't like it, but I personally love Body Language. I think it is a shame that we didn't get a tour, especially since some of these songs are really good and definitely deserved a live outing. But the Body Language concert that was released on DVD was really good as well, so at least we had that. And so, here we are once again at the end of another riveting Kylie Retrospectives with me, ElliXia Valentine. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment, blah 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 blah, you know the drill by this point. Thank you very much for tuning in, as always. I've been ElliXia's Valentine, and don't forget to tune in next week when we will be discussing 2007's X. And on that note, that wraps up this video. Thank you very much for watching. I've been ElliXia's Valentine. Don't forget to stay safe, stay good, wear a mask if you're going out in public, please, and keep a safe distance. Look after yourselves, and I will see you next week. Thank you very much. Please book me. Mwah.